Hey everyone, it's David Sirota. So there's a lot of people who suspect that the political class in Washington, D.C. works to defend only itself. That above and beyond all the disagreements, that the political class, elected officials, incumbents, are primarily working to defend themselves. And there was a story this week that some might say confirms that suspicion. It was a story about West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, the Democrat, the conservative Democrat, who is fairly high profile because he's often seen as a swing vote potentially for Republican legislation. The headline in local West Virginia news was West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin signs a bipartisan pledge. And here's the story. Manchin signed a pledge to return to the era of bipartisan cooperation and agreement. Now, I'm not sure such an era ever really existed, but let's go with it for a second. In this pledge, Manchin says, in order to restore civility to the United States Senate and our political discourse, we must pledge to return to an era of bipartisan cooperation and agreement. And I pledge to the people and to the American people that I will. And here's the pledge. Manchin is saying he will not campaign against a sitting member of the Senate. He will not directly fundraise against a sitting member of the Senate. He will not distribute any direct mail against them. He will not endorse any advertisements directed at them. And he will not use or endorse social media campaigns to attack any incumbent member of the Senate. Now look, Joe Manchin has every right to take whatever pledge that he wants. But I think there's a deeper message here, which is that Manchin is signing a pledge to defend incumbents in the Senate regardless of what those incumbents do. He is pledging to not criticize, not publicly campaign against any member of the Senate by virtue of them simply being in the Senate. So, in a sense, any member of the Senate can do basically anything. And Joe Manchin says, I will not campaign against you. Now, here's the thing. In the United States, in theory, one of the beauties of our system, of our democracy, is that people do campaign against each other. There's a war of ideas. People campaign against each other. There are elections, and elections are decided. And that vigorous debate is, in theory, good for democracy, good for the exchange of ideas. This is a pledge that basically is saying that exchange, that vigorous exchange, because it gets heated, is bad. And you have a member of the Senate pledging not to engage in that in the name of bipartisan cooperation. So, I mean, again, Manchin has every right to take this pledge, but there's a deeper message here. The message that seems to be coming out of this pledge is that in order to create cooperation, you have to pull yourself out of and pledge not to engage in the rough and tumble of that exchange of ideas, the rough and tumble of those debates, the rough and tumble of, if I disagree with you, I may go to your voters and ask them to vote against you. And so I think for people who suspect that the political class primarily, first and foremost, works to defend itself, here is a pledge in which the priority is protecting incumbency.